Beginnings are so important, don't you think? The first step of a 1,000-mile journey. In this case, my journey was into a land that I didn't know what it would entail. I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't know what I would find. And that can feel daunting. Fortunately for me, I had someone who was there before the beginning, waiting. Someone who had gained a wisdom that only comes from decades of searching and researching. Someone who was there when I took my first fledgling steps into finding the unseen, experienced my first resistance that often comes when you take those first steps, and was there right at the moment that I needed him the most.
That's a little bit of it, like on you posted a few things.
Oh yeah,
And it was interesting. Quite a few people there too. Eh?
yeah, there was. And Mom had kept everything, right?
You were explaining how your mom, she must have been quite a feisty woman.
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah.
No, well, we've been sitting here for a long time.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Okay, shuttle piece?
2 medium black.
Okay.
What do they know?
Pinag-break ko siya.
Same to you, lady. 1,
Thank you. Have a good day.
2.
Yeah, keep going. I was thinking about this the other day, then you were the very first. Like, you were here before my journey even began in so many ways. Do you remember the first conversation we had? Do you remember when I first kind of woke up and I'd hit my first bit of resistance? We were sitting in my office at the plant and you were drawing on the flip chart. You drew this little bump. And you talked about how in the beginning there's this, you just got to get over that little bit of a bump and that little bit of resistance. And when you're stepping into a whole different way of living that's primarily different from pretty much everyone else around you, what does that feel like?
Our normal way of communicating, thinking, to get into the, I don't know, into the realm of maybe spirituality, to get out of the normal sort of normality of the way we are, the way people are. And once we got over that and we started to communicate in this fashion, and it just relates to the time when we went down to the ponds, is that both of us started to see things that a normal, if you will, a person would not see.
And I think that's the thing is, in chapter 4, I talk about how it's our awareness expanding, and all these experiences or the unseen, it's here right now. What's interesting, and this happens, and of course this is just us, and this is the way it goes, folks, when we get together, is as soon as you start talking, the energy starts flowing, all of a sudden I'm aware of all these presences.
Yes.
Right, which of
Yes.
course we've been down that road so many times before. Yes. And how all these things are here all the time. It's just about giving ourselves permission, I think you would say, to be able to experience them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that was a big piece of what our trip down to the pond behind Heritage Ranch was about, right? Tell me some of the things you think about that. So when you think about that, what are some of the more poignant memories that pop into your awareness?
Well, I guess the first part is the walk when we came down the hill, and we were coming through the trees were kind of on both sides, and I was walking along and not really paying attention to anything, and you were the first one that actually acknowledged that
Okay.
there is a presence here. And
Okay.
I kind of looked around as if I could just look over here, and yeah. And then I asked you, or you asked me first, what do you see? And I started to explain the sort of the individuals in the mist. They were like a hologram sort of thing. And then I asked you what you saw to substantiate what I was seeing. Of course, you were looking at it already. I mean, you were there, and as we walked, we could see these individuals in the trees, and we described them, and they were dressed in some of them in just loincloths, and they were observing us, and I asked you, who do you think they are? Do you remember?
I remember
talking about that?
one of the pictures that is so clearly sort of ingrained in my mind is watching you look up, because we were down kind of in the valley, if you want to call it that, looking up, and your eyes as they opened, as you gazed around, and you said, I can see them, they're there. And I really like how you said, I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, that you had your experience of it and understanding, and I had mine. And I think that's such an important aspect, that as people step into experiencing the unseen, is their experience Yes. Right?
Yes.
And your experience is yours. And that's why I think it's not something you can just learn in a book. I mean,
No.
the books give you good guidance and instructions, but you have to live it for yourself, because it's your experience.
Yes. You have to allow it to come to you, and you have to accept it. You have to open yourself up to it, as we did there.
One of the things I find really interesting is how, even though you and I were in the same space and place and have similar themes, your experience is your experience, my experience is my experience. And I think that's the thing that so often gets missed, is when people start to step into experiencing the unseen, is they go, well, what's the right way? Am I experiencing the right thing or the wrong thing? Because should it not all be the same? And I think that's where we're missing it, because we are infinitely creative creatures. And so it's not about which experience is right, which one is wrong. And it's about the experience. And I think we get so hung up, we get so stuck in our mind, right? And thinking and analyzing, rather than just allowing whatever is going to transpire to transpire. I really believe we have been taught to think way too much, to have to analyze everything, to have to fit it inside our circle of what we've been conditioned to think is normal, that we never get to experience the extraordinary, because the extraordinary is not inside the circle, it's outside it, which tends to put us in like the 1% club of most of the population, because as we have said many times, we can be born, live, and die and not have to think, because everything is so programmed. Do this, do this, do this.
Yes, that is amazing. And like you were saying, we're separate. We're different. We're
Yes.
and yet, and this is why I always come back to the experiences that you and I have, is that I always ask you, and you will ask me, because we want to kind of substantiate that we are having this experience, but we might experience something slightly different, which is
Exactly.
great,
Which is
good.
perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Because no two walks are identical.
And right now, this experience is just between you and me until it comes on here.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
because nobody has heard about it.
No, that's right. That's right. Nobody has.
Nobody
Yeah.
has.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
We've tossed it back and forth,
Yeah.
like I've
Yeah.
sent it over to you, and
Mm-hmm.
and naturally we had that experience, and we really haven't discussed this until now together.
Yep.
But that's the amazing thing. Nobody has heard about this.
It's a new thing. It's like a new creation. Right?
Yeah.
Each time we express ourselves, and it's such a wonderful flow between the two of us. Nothing is scripted. Nothing is planned. We just kind of get together, and these amazing things happen. And I think that's one of the many things I appreciate about us. And like I said, right from the beginning, when I first woke up, and I always used to teach this, one of the best indicators that you're growing is when you experience pushback. And I just started, and I experienced that little bit of a pushback, and I can remember clearly the voices in my head going, you know what's caused this, and if you just stop right now, this resistance will go away. And I knew it would. And I don't know which choice I would have made. I would like to have thought that I would make the choice to move forward, but I guess I'm really thankful that I didn't have to, because you waltzed into my office, I shared that, and there you were on the whiteboard, and you had this little bit of bump, and you said, you just have to push past that bump, and then away you go.
Let
That
it
was so
slide.
valuable. That was such a valuable thing, and one of the, as I would joke with the students, it's your fault that I'm here. And I appreciate that.
And that's
more
true.
than
That
you
is
would-
true. That is right. And I
more than you ever can realize.
I
tell ya.
agree that
Yeah, it's
because
cool.
like I was saying, we kind of come into each other's
Yeah.
life not because we're pushing each other to get into each other's minds
Good point.
or our lives. We just sort of like this. It just happens.
Yeah.
And all of the previous ones, meetings we used to have, and then it sort of disappeared. But we had that, and right from the beginning, and it was something. It wasn't me coming to tell you something. It was something that drew me there. And like you said, it was your fault that I got there and that I was starting to show you something. And it's like me trying to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
A lot of people just close their minds. They just close me off or close you off when you're talking.
And I think
And this is why we, when we get together, it's just normal stuff.
and that's what I talked about in chapter 4, was how these experiences, as your awareness grows, they don't feel otherworldly or anything like that. They feel incredibly normal, as it should be.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
They say hindsight is 20/20, and that's never been more true than when I look back at the 20 years that I've walked this path with my brother Mike. Someone who was there before my beginning. And I know that while our paths cross and then they part and then they come back together, we'll be there, walking beside me till the end.